drag queen, or perhaps you're gay. Is there a point to all these fancy clothes, with all these buckles from your head down to your toes? It's very simple, but I'm just another girl. It's not so easy, but I'm giving it a whirl. Is there something that you're trying to prove, with all the makeup and the way you move? Are you looking for some sympathy? No, I'm trying to be the best girl I can be. It's very simple, but I'm just another girl. It's not so easy, but I'm giving it a whirl. Like my martinis dry, cosmos I won't deny. Smoke those long cigarettes. Thank God I'm not dead yet. Done all these crazy things, short of a wedding ring. Just another
Thanks for joining us. I'm T.a.L.L, and you're watching NLC Trans. Tonight I'm here with my dear friends and co-hosts, Tara Alexander and Stacy Dozier. Renee is not with us tonight. Not sure what's going on with Renee. She's been having some health issues, so Renee, if you're listening, why don't you call in and give us a heads up what's going on. Hope you're doing okay. Anyway, thanks to Context for being on last week. It's always a good show when they're on. A difficult subject, but certainly an important one. And I wanted to get to the stalking part, and we never quite got there. We always run out of time. But anyway, so they're going to have to. Anna and Bethany will have to come back, and
it's Connecticut Sexual Assault Crisis Services, Context.
Yes, Context. And yeah, it's always good when they're on, but it's just it's difficult. It's a difficult thing to talk about, but it's really sort of useful and necessary. So anyway, we're we're of course following our legislators very carefully. And in fact, I was listening all day to the Senate, and our bill still has not come up. Obviously, we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to probably talk about the amendments a little bit. There's a whole slew of amendments.
Some pretty insulting.
Which have not been raised because the bill has not been raised. But basically, we've got 5 more days in the session.
Yeah.
And so we need to get this bill raised.
Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about Wednesday. Wednesday is what, the 8th? The session ends on the 8th, but I'm not sure if we have an actual session on the 8th or not. So yeah, it could be 4 or 5 days. So we're concerned about that. I know that our senators are busy, and they were talking all day today about budget stuff. Yeah, the hell with that budget. Who cares about the budget? But I know it's important, and they've got a lot on their plate, and this time of year it's always crazy for them. They're working until all hours of the night on this stuff, and
I imagine the next few business days will be long nights as well.
Be long nights, yeah.
We know that when the bill came up in the House, it was about 5 hours of debate before the bill was finally voted on, and the Senate is probably going to be the same or more.
Yeah.
With the House only submitted 3 or 4 amendments, and they raised all but one of them. Yeah. The Senate so far has like 7 or 8 amendments.
Yeah, it's a bunch.
A couple of them are duplicate or seem to be duplicate, but even so, there's at least 5 distinct amendments to debate.
Yeah.
Before getting around to the bill, so it could be a 10-hour marathon.
Yeah, and certainly that's one of my big concerns is that, if you tack on enough amendments, if you slow this thing down, and certainly our opposition, those that don't like us, don't agree with the bill in the Senate, are going to try to slow this thing down and make it not happen.
So do you think they're trying to tack on as much as possible to prevent it from going through. And even if it does go through with amendments, then it would still have to go back to the House, which kills it.
Well,
potentially. It's an interesting question, isn't it? If the bills, probably does, but if the bill has passed both houses, does it die?
yeah, I'm not sure. We actually have a phone call. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly how that works, honestly.
I know
But
if it
my
hasn't
concern,
passed both houses, it dies.
yeah, my concern is that if you make this thing look like it's going to be enough trouble, it won't get raised.
It won't get raised.
We're going to take this call. Good evening, NLC Trans. You're on the air.
Hi, girls. How you doing?
Hey, Renee. So how you feeling?
Well, not too good. I have a bigger problem than what I thought. It's instead of the kidney stone, it's a cyst that's on the kidney. So
Oh, wow. Oops, feedback.
having to deal with that, and
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
in a lot of pain.
Sorry to hear that. Yeah. So they're gonna.
Sorry, I've been missing, but
No, it's
I'm
important.
trying to get back on my feet here, and it's,
Yeah. Yeah.
We've been wondering how you were doing.
So are they going to do surgery?
Well, I have to get in touch with the surgeon from Hartford. He's supposed to be very good, so I'm hoping everything turns out well.
Yeah. Wow. Well, good luck with that.
Thanks.
That's sort of an uncomfortable thing, I know.
Yeah, living in pain. Not good. So I just called to see how everything was going. Any updated versions coming up, or speakers, or?
Yeah, no, we're things are pretty quiet at the moment, except for the legislation. So, and
any word on that as of yet?
no, they still haven't raised it in the Senate. So we're waiting. We're hopeful.
The end is coming in Wednesday,
Yeah.
a week from today.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's
Do you think that they're postponing?
Dragging their feet.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know.
the opposition, FIC Action, namely, has a theory that they are not raising the bill because the governor and the Democratic caucus is still lobbying their members for support.
Yeah. Well, I hope that's true.
And if they're not raising the bill because they're still trying to lock in the last few votes, then at least that's that's a plus. But they need to do it soon.
Yeah. I don't care if it comes up on the last day. That's fine with me, as long as it gets passed.
Without amendments.
Preferably without amendments. And we're going to talk about the amendments, I think, a bit.
Sure.
Yeah, wasn't there like 3 amendments? Or
No,
There's
more
like
than that.
7 or 8 now.
Yeah.
there's 7 or 8 now?
There were three House amendments. Well, four House amendments. One of them passed.
Right.
The one that was proposed by Representative Fox.
Yes.
But the other 3 were defeated, and that was a good thing. And in the Senate, there's like 8.
Yeah. Rather ugly amendments. But anyway, we're going to talk about those. But anyway. So anyway, hope you're okay. I hope everything goes well, and hope you're feeling well enough to come back on the show soon.
Yes, I'm hoping to, too, soon. Yeah.
We do have a couple people that had told us that they'd come on the show after the session was over.
Yes.
So
Yeah, Edith Prague did say she would come on, and
That's wonderful.
And I think we'll be able to get Kevin Ryan to come on at some point. He likes us.
Yeah, he's very reluctant, but he might.
He likes
He
us.
might
So
be
we'll
coerced.
talk him into it.
If we could get a friendly face,
How
maybe Andy.
how about Stephen Fox?
But I'm sorry.
How about Representative Fox?
There are certainly a lot of representatives and even senators that are fairly sympathetic to our cause, and Not that that is any prerequisite, but more certainly, I think that would make it more likely.
No, we'd love to have the people that have concerns come on the show as well.
Yeah, but it's probably more likely that they would be willing to be on the show. So hopefully we will get some of these people on. But yeah, not till after the session is over. They're all working, until 10 o'clock at night now.
Yeah.
So I mean, they had last
they
night.
start at 11.
Yeah, but last night I was watching the Senate. It was the Senate adjourned at like 10 o'clock, and then there was a
Democratic
caucus after that. So it's like these poor guys.
They were returning to the Democrat caucus that they started earlier in the day.
Yeah, it's like they're going to be working till midnight every night this week, I'm sure.
You go running from the Senate room into the committee rooms because you have an obligation to hear what's going on in the committees that you're a part of, but you also have an obligation to return and vote in the chamber, and then you've got all these other meetings going on in parallel that you're missing.
Yeah, so they're busy, but after the session, we may have a shot at getting some of mine.
Yeah.
Like I said, Edith Prague did say that she would come on, and
we may be able to get like Stillman or Hewitt or.
Yeah.
A lot of the local folks are very sympathetic.
Yeah, yes they are. A good bunch, too. Good people. So anyway.
Not that the opposition's necessarily bad people.
They're not bad. And you're absolutely right about that. They're not bad people. They
have misguided concerns.
Right.
Yeah.
There's still some ignorance about the reality of what it means to be transgender, and some education would be in order. But they're just, a lot of the concerns are sort of understandable from a parent's point of view, but they're just misguided, misplaced.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, so that's kind of where we are with that.
Did you want to talk at all about the stalking stuff?
This was something that I had wanted to talk with the girls from Contacts about, because I'd seen it on their website, and I just having been the victim of stalking myself, it's a subject that's sort of near and dear to my heart. I'm just going to read. This is from Contacts, the Connecticut Sexual Assault Crisis Services. This is from their website. I was just going to read this little blurb on stalking, because this is the one thing I wanted to get to. Well, I mean, there were a lot of things, but we covered a lot of ground with these guys, and I was hoping to get to this, but we ran out of time, as we always do, and hopefully we'll get them back on again on a regular basis. But this was just what they had, and I actually haven't read this yet, but this was what was on there. I pulled off their website about stalking. According to the National Crime Victimization Survey, an estimated 3.4 million people are stalked each year in the United States. Although stalking laws vary from state to state, stalking is generally defined as a course of conduct directed at a specific person that would cause a reasonable person to feel fear for their safety. This course of conduct could include behaviors such as repeatedly making unwanted phone calls, routinely waiting for a person, following or spying on a person, repeatedly showing up at a person's place of work, leaving unwanted notes or gifts, or using the internet to monitor a person. There are strong connections between stalking and sexual violence. Some sex offenders monitor or follow their victims prior to an assault, and others repeatedly contact their victims after an assault has taken place. 31% of women who have been stalked by a current or former intimate partner were also sexually assaulted by that partner. And many stalking victims fear that their offenders may assault them. Although stalking has existed throughout the course of history, it was not criminalized in the United States until 1990, when California passed the nation's first stalking law. The law followed the death of actress Rebecca Schaefer, who was stalked for 3 years and then murdered by an obsessed fan. I remember her. She was on some show that I used to watch, but I can't remember the name of the show. By 1993, every state in the United States had passed a law prohibiting stalking behaviors. Connecticut criminalized stalking in 1992, but unfortunately the stalking statute has not been updated since then and is now outdated and rarely used. The current stalking statute makes no mention of the internet, cell phones, GPS devices, or other pieces of technology that stalkers commonly use to track and intimidate their victims. It only applies to individuals who fear for their personal physical safety. If an offender behaves in a way that makes a victim fear for the safety of their children, pets, partners, or another third party, it is not considered stalking. The law also does not apply to victims who worry that their stalker's behavior will result in loss of employment, public embarrassment, or other financial or social harms. Contax has been speaking with legislators about their concerns relating to the existing stalking statutes, and we're extremely pleased that Representative Flexer has sponsored legislation to update and improve these stalking statutes. HB 6089 would expand the stalking behaviors that are covered in the statute, as well as increase penalties for this frightening crime. Anyway, it's just one of those things that's it's really kind of scary. They have a T-shirt here. Stalking is not a joke. It's not romantic. It's not okay. It's one of those things. It's scary, and like I say, having been the victim of stalking myself, I can say that it's not much fun, and it is scary.
And not recognized by the perpetrators.
And not recognized by the perpetrators, absolutely. And it's sometimes it ends very badly. I don't know if any of you remember the Tracy Thurman case here in Connecticut. It was in over there in the Waterbury area, north of Waterbury, Torrington. I believe it was Torrington, where Tracy Thurman was brutally attacked by a stalker who was in fact her ex, I believe her ex-husband, and very nearly killed and left very very badly hurt, and was never able to make a full recovery from that.
And just like you said, it's important to talk about the sexual assault and stuff. It's important to include something like stalking in those conversations.
Yeah, it's scary stuff. It's scary stuff. Anyway, I just wanted to talk briefly about that. Obviously, we
without contacts here,
we would love to get them back on again, and we could have them on again and again and again and never cover everything, I'm sure, and hopefully we will. But they're a really good group, and we appreciate their coming on. Anyway, so we should probably continue talking about the legislation and the amendments, and
so now you said in the House one amendment
yes,
was passed,
which was a sort of a definition amendment. It basically defined it was definition of terms, I think, sort of.
Yeah, it was something that Representative Fox had proposed, I believe.
Yes, it was Fox.
To try and, there were a lot of people that had concerns over the definition of gender identity or expression, and it was an attempt to try and qualify it a little bit more.
Right.
Not to narrow the definition, but to provide greater description. And there were a number of folks that continued to be unhappy with it after that. Some of the amendments they proposed to change the definition of gender identity or expression and narrowed it incredibly. We're facing one of those again in the Senate.
Okay.
I think I don't have it. I know I don't have that printed out. I think it. I think it essentially gave examples. It talked about how some people might demonstrate their gender identity or express. Is that it? No.
That's the Board of Education.
How they might express their gender identity or expression. They might have had therapy. They might have had years of adamant expression that they are a particular gender. That they're sort of categories of.
Is this the one?
No. That's the amendment that we'll get to.
Yes, okay. I'm not sure I have that one. The one you're talking about, I'm not sure I have. Unfortunately, I don't believe I have that. But anyway,
Yeah, no.
we have some of the others.
Well, I have my notes on the others.
Okay.
But it probably would be useful to talk about the actual amendments. So the one that we saw in the House that is being raised again.
You can pull those out of there if you like.
Is that's all right. This will help keep things orderly. Yeah. Gender identity or expression means the gender identity or expression of a person who has been diagnosed by a healthcare professional as having a gender identity disorder as defined by the most recent edition of the American Psychiatric Association's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. That's the proposed change.
Right.
Which I was calling the trans tax, because it's about $1,500 to be evaluated in the first place.
Yes.
And secondly, getting the diagnosis of gender identity disorder is only applicable to people who are looking for medical remedies, for medical treatments. There are plenty of people out there that have a gender identity or expression, and they're not looking for hormones, they're not looking for surgery, and therefore they're not going to a doctor to get a gender identity disorder diagnosis. On top of which, all right, I have this diagnosis of GID. I can't prove it.
Right.
They don't give you a little certificate that says you've been diagnosed with GID.
Right.
You know, you don't carry around a name badge that says, "Hi, my name's Tara, I have GID." So
I mean, we get a letter from our therapist, which allows us to change our gender marker on our driver's license, but we don't carry that letter around with us either, nor should we have to carry papers.
No, you shouldn't have to carry papers to prove it. On top of which, I don't have that letter yet. I have the diagnosis, but I don't have that letter yet. My gender marker hasn't been changed. Not yet.
And on top of that,
works.
often those letters, like, I mean, I certainly, I have the diagnosis and I got the letters, but I never personally got the letters. They went from my doctor.
You give them a self-addressed stamped envelope and they send them off to the doctor.
Those letters went directly to my doctors. Mm-hmm. And it's like...
Much like other parts of your medical record, you don't get to carry them home.
Yeah.
And certainly, like any of your mental health record, you're not allowed to look at it.
Right.
So yeah, it's so anyway. It's a little absurd, but
it's a little absurd, and it doesn't address the underlying problem. The concern seems to be, well, if somebody claims to be, transgender, how do we substantiate that so that we know that discriminating against that person's not okay?
Maybe someone's not trans; they're what we call cis. So some people, do we make other people prove their gender?
Maybe we should
because they say so.
Maybe we should just not discriminate against anybody.
Oh, that's just simple.
Do you have papers, Renee?
Yes, I do.
Do you carry them around with you?
There's too many.
Carry on the little file cabinet on the rolling cart.
But I mean,
exactly.
You raise a good point that there's people that were born female and identify as female that have been hauled off because they're considered that they looked like a boy entering the girls' bathroom. They're not going to have any paper. They're going to have a driver's license. That's going to say F on it, and see, I'm
they
female.
shouldn't have to prove that they are who they. They are the gender that they are.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's asinine.
Which leads to your favorite amendment.
Oh yes, this one I saw red big time when I saw this one. Like, wow.
This could potentially be considered the Papers, Please amendment.
Yeah, this one is Gestapo.
It is in here, isn't it? It would be
Yeah, it is in there. I am sure that one's in there. I can find it. I'm
It's
sure.
the one that's crumpled, has a couple of claw marks on it.
I know it's in there.
Come on. Bear with me while I can't open the paper.
Sorry. I know it's in there. I saw it.
Okay.
Of course, I just will make a liar out of me now, I'm sure.
All right. Well, the overview. This proposed amendment will require any transgender person to register with the commissioner of the DMV, who will indicate on your electronic record that you're trans.
Yeah. Wow, I can't believe that's not in there.
Oh, yeah, and you had to, in the same sentence, you have to tell them where you live,
Well, yeah.
They know where you live.
like you're a dangerous criminal.
They already know where you live, and now they want to know if you identify as trans. Okay, as Callie said, the first immediate gut reaction is, great, this is a trans offender list. You're going to make me register.
You can put me
that
in
I'm trans.
yeah, you can put me in a camp and you'll know where to find us. You can round us all up and put us in a concentration camp.
But the second big problem with it is, what does it really solve? Once again, you have the situation of, okay, I don't know what, cop pulls you over, or cop responds to the scene of an altercation, and you know, he's going to take control of the situation, and then he's going to go run your name through the computer to find out who you are, and it's going to come up and say, Stacy is trans. What does that solve? Oh, I can't make comments about her gender now. I can't make comments about her identity or expression now, because that would be discrimination. What part of doing your police work job would necessitate making comments about identity or expression in the first place?
Right.
You know, why is that really needed? Unless it's to, as you point out, essentially, we want to know where all our trans people are at all times.
Yeah, I have a real problem with that. This, as far as I know, is still a free country, somewhat free. And that bothers me. It just goes against the grain in a big way.
You know, the note that I have here is, our society has historically made certain groups of people to register with the state when they're not deemed trustworthy. We have examples throughout our history of racial, ethnic, and religious groups having to be identified by the state, but today the only group we force to register with the state is sexual offenders.
Yeah.
In what other light can this be seen than a trans offender list?
Yeah, well, certainly there are an awful lot of people out there, and our opposition basically is among them, and certainly it seems that there are people out there that seem to think that transgender, transsexual, whatever, is synonymous with sex offender.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't true. We haven't done anything. We haven't committed any crimes. We're just trying to live our lives.
So, I mean, it just feels like what's happening is we're taking a piece of anti-discrimination legislation and trying to use it to codify a very specific discrimination.
Yeah.
And it's
crazy.
singularly offensive.
Yeah.
You know, on top of which, the anti-discrimination legislation is intended to reduce, especially over time, reduce and or prevent discrimination from happening. And these amendments, in their best light, could only come into play after the fact.
Right.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
You know, if a potential employer goes to run your driving record, it's going to come up to indicate you're trans. Does that happen? So the employer knows not to discriminate against you? Or should the employer not discriminate against you because it's wrong?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and the other thing is we've talked about this a little bit, is this whole idea. We've seen what happens when this kind of legislation is rejected. People, and there will be people out there that think, oh, the legislation was rejected, so now it's okay. These people aren't actually human beings. We can beat them up, drag them out of restrooms, and you know, like in Baltimore, nearly beat them to death.
And Virginia.
Yeah.
Outside the 7-Eleven.
Right. We can. It sort of gives people this idea that, well, the legislation didn't pass, now it's okay to abuse these people. And my fear with some of these...
If it was wrong, they would have passed a law against it, right?
And my fear with some of these amendments is also that if you put an amendment in there that makes it sound like we're some kind of criminals, then there are going to be people out there that say, wow, these are bad people, these are criminals.
There must be a law in there for a reason.
Yeah, so we need to abuse these people.
So speaking of the law and penalties,
okay.
Any person who falsely exhibits a gender identity or expression, either through appearance or behavior, that is different from the traditionally associated with the person's physiology or assigned sex at birth, solely for the purpose of committing or facilitating the commission of a crime, shall, in lieu of the sentence of imprisonment authorized in the general statutes for the crime which such a person stands convicted, be subject to the sentence of imprisonment authorized by said section for the next most serious degree of misdemeanor or felony.
Well, see, you know, the problem with this is it doesn't apply to us. It really doesn't, because this...
Well, no, but in this, I having listened to the House debate and listened to some of the concerns that get raised, there's a concern that if we pass the anti-discrimination law, that somebody who wants to commit a crime will essentially dress in drag, will dress in the identity of the opposite sex in order to obscure their identity during the commission of the crime.
Right.
Okay, so the problem, well, okay, I can't
One
say
problem.
I can't say the problem. A problem among many with that is that people who are going out to commit a crime usually want to sort of blend in. It doesn't help if you wear a big T-shirt that says, "I'm a criminal, ask me how," or something, right? Making a big X on your forehead won't make you blend in. And if you're not trans, trying to sort of cross-dress before you commit a crime is going to make you stand out a lot. It's not going to be...
It takes practice.
Yeah, it's not going to be an effective strategy, is what I'm saying.
On top of which, if the notion is that if you wear a disguise to obscure your identity, there should be additional penalties, then that's what the amendment should say. Yeah. Not if you know, okay, so if I wear a ski mask and a Raggedy Ann outfit, or versus a ski mask and a Raggedy Andy outfit, one of those, and I don't know which, based on Senator whomever submitted it, one of those will get me. Is it? No, that's a different one.
Okay.
One of those will get me the next level up, and the other one won't.
Yeah.
This does not make sense.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. And it's craziness. And if it wasn't serious, I would laugh at it.
And here's the bigger problem. According to the fiscal note on the amendment, I may have pulled the amendment. Yes, I did. It's still Senator Kissel.
Okay.
Who, by the way, has 3 prisons in his district and maybe wants to keep them filled.
Well, obviously they believe we're criminals. Not only are we sex offenders, but we're criminals.
But here's the problem, according to the fiscal note on that amendment, is that to the extent that these changes increase the likelihood that offenders would be prosecuted or receive harsher penalties than currently provided for, potential cost for incarceration and/or probation supervision in the community would result. On average, it costs the state $3,785 to supervise an offender on probation in the community, as compared to $48,545 to incarcerate the offender. So, by tacking this bill on, you've no longer made the bill revenue neutral. Because for those people who may commit a crime cross-dressed, that pushes their misdemeanor to a felony, pushes their probation to incarceration, it incurs cost.
Right.
And the bill's no longer revenue neutral. And from my understanding, now it would have to go to the Appropriations Committee until they found a way to pay for the increase.
Right. And it's a lot of money. And by the way, isn't that a lot of what we've been trying to do? We just passed legislation about credits for prisoners for good behavior to try to get some of these people out of our prisons, good or bad, to save money.
A couple of months. Shaves their sentence by a couple of months.
Yeah.
But over the course of the 10-year program or whatever, it's supposed to save a lot of money.
Yeah. And so,
because you're not spending $50,000.
We'll be using that all up because they're going to put us all in prison. This is just an excuse so that when we go out in public, they can say, "You're wearing a disguise." Well, no,
yeah,
I'm not,
which ironically, a lot of states used to have rules on the books, used to have laws on the books. And Connecticut was one. I remember growing up and being very aware of this, carrying the little card around, that it was against the law to dress in the appearance of the opposite sex.
Yeah.
And Connecticut repealed that law, thankfully, a decade or more ago.
Yeah. The whole thing is just
But
crazy.
again, if you're concerned about somebody obscuring their identity by wearing a disguise, and the only disguise you single out is a gender identity of the opposites, it's really something.
Yeah.
So then that leaves us with the private places and the bathrooms. I'm sorry,
Yes,
the private places in the school system.
Yeah.
So the which one you want to do first? We'll stick with Mr. Kissel.
Yeah, most of them have his name on them, don't they?
Yes, except for the Whitcox one. No local, regional board of education shall discriminate on the basis of sex, gender identity, or expression, or the marital status in the employment of teachers in the public schools or in the determination of the compensation to be paid to such teachers, except that a local or regional board of education may reassign an elementary school teacher who, during the school year, exhibits either through appearance or behavior a gender identity or expression different from that traditionally associated with the person's physiology or assigned sex at birth, provided the teacher shall not be discharged on account of such appearance or behavior, and provided further the teacher may return to the teacher's former position for the next school year.
Yeah.
Now, and this is the better of the two wordings. The other one is basically the school board can, not even the school board, there's no vote required, there's no discussion required. The school board just simply reassigns or fires the teacher. This one's at least worded in, it seems like it's a concerned way. But this is to address the concern that a teacher who might transition in the middle of the year, or a teacher that might come in cross-dressed one day, our opposition likes to use the phrase breasts and beards, or pencil mustache and pencil skirt.
Yes, craziness.
These are, absurd
truly
claims.
Craziness. And this notion that people are going to flip-flop from day to day, it's like, no.
It's happened for years. How many non-trans female teachers wear a dress one day and pants the next?
That was one of the points that I'd come up with as well, that it was only a couple of decades ago that a teacher could wear pants to school without being sent home. That's only a recent occurrence. God forbid you should have a female teacher who puts on a white wig and mustache to read Mark Twain to her students. That would be expressing a gender expression not consistent with the one assigned her at birth, and she could be discharged from the classroom. But here's the concern, right, is that young children are impressionable, and you could cause them gender confusion if they see this happen in the classroom. So the big problem is science doesn't back it up.
Right.
Children are very adaptable. They don't get impressioned about what their gender identity is based on seeing other people. And I know our opposition doesn't like hearing that, but it's true. And on top of which, if the concern is that the fact that the teacher is maybe just one day out of the school year dressed differently is going to confuse the kids to the point that they're going to have messed up gender identities, what kind of reaction are the kids going to have when the school system now has to reassign that teacher to a non-teaching position in the school system, hire a long-term sub, and then explain to the kids why their teacher isn't in the classroom anymore?
Right. So, I mean, it's this sort of thing that teaches children to discriminate. That would sort of...
When someone's changing, yes, it's okay for you to not want to be around them and shun them and hide and
Right.
push them out of the public eye.
It impresses on them that this is bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have a whole other generation of students that grows up to discriminate against the LGBT community in general because of badger sputum, which is what I like to call that.
You know, so yeah, you definitely have that. You definitely have that concern. If these kids are as young and impressionable, as the people who are concerned about it claim, what impression are you leaving them when you yank their favorite teacher out of the classroom? On top of which, and maybe there's some teachers out there that know, when you're talking about public schools, teachers are operating under contract, under union contract. Do the teachers' union's contract allow for the teacher to be transferred out of the classroom? Would this amendment come in violation with the teacher's contract? You know, shouldn't something like this be left to the local school system and the principal and the teacher to resolve, instead of the state setting the example that what we expect you to do is kick them out of the classroom? You know, there's a lot of talk going on right now with potential budget cuts that a lot of the school systems may have to fire really good teachers simply because they don't have seniority,
Right.
this last in, first out policy.
In fact, that's the legislation that the Senate is working on today has to do with that.
Yeah.
Part of that, yes.
That if the unions vote down the stuff and it does go to layoffs, school systems may have to lay off really good teachers simply because they don't have seniority.
And this has historically happened a lot.
So what are you doing when you take a potentially really good teacher out of the classroom mid-year? Just because they wore an article of clothing that the school board doesn't consider standard for that gender, for the gender they assigned to the teacher. So I understand their concern, but it's not founded in science, and the amendment that they're proposing doesn't really shield the children from exposure to it. They've been exposed to it,
Sure.
and now the teacher's yanked out of the classroom for the rest of the year. And okay, what if a student stays back? Can the teacher go back to that classroom because you have a student that stayed back and they're going to get him again? You know, it doesn't really address the concern. Is the biggest problem.
And it doesn't give kids enough credit either.
It really doesn't. I mean, outside of the fact that, all right, obviously that's for the employee. What happens when one of the students, like we know one, what if one of the students is trans and starts coming to school dressed differently? Do you yank the student out of the classroom? I think you'd have a problem with that. You know. So if you're worried about the young impressionable minds, what about the janitor, the lunch lady, the bus driver? You know, if you're worried about young impressionable minds, this amendment doesn't do it. And it's unfair.
You shouldn't be impressing on impressionable minds that discrimination is okay.
Yeah.
Which takes us to the bathroom amendments, the bathroom bills.
Yeah.
That it's okay to discriminate, though there's already an exception in the anti-discrimination law. Okay, keep talking. Being told to keep talking. There's already a provision in the anti-discrimination law that it's okay to discriminate against sex in the areas of things like bathrooms, shower rooms, locker rooms, etc. This amendment would add gender identity or expression to the list with sex.
Sorry.
So it basically would say that it's okay to discriminate on the basis of sex or to discriminate on the basis of gender identity or expression in the areas of bathrooms, locker rooms, shower rooms, etc. Well, obviously the problem with that is we're already experiencing that, and that's one of the things that we're trying to rectify.
Thanks, Joe.
You could have just told me to talk louder.
She can.
Anyway.
I must have burned the mic out.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so these bathrooms, these private places that they're concerned about, again, the supposed concern is that somebody may disguise themselves. A potential predator, if this passes, may disguise themselves as a member of the opposite sex in order to sneak into a bathroom, in order to sneak into a locker room. And when the whole sexual assault argument that our opposition's been using started failing miserably, they went to peeping Toms.
Right.
Might dress as a girl in order to sneak into the locker room and peep on girls.
Yeah, it's absurd. The whole thing is absurd, but go on.
Fundamentally, these amendments fail to recognize that transgender men are men and transgender women are women and should be treated as such in our society. That is the anti-discrimination basis in this bill, is that a transgender man is a man and a transgender woman is a woman. And as such, transgender men should be allowed to use the men's bathroom. If you start allowing gender identity or expression to be the discriminating factor on who can use which bathroom, you're going to push transgender men into women's rooms and transgender women into men's rooms.
Which is dangerous.
And again, doesn't really address the issue because, as we heard last week, the opposition has argued that men should not be allowed to use women's rooms. And, in a way, we agree. I shouldn't have to use the men's room. Sure. I'm not a man.
But I mean, the premise, part of the premise of this is peeping Toms, but and I'm not advocating that, and I would never advocate that the logical extension of that be implemented, which is okay. So what about people who are gay?
Yeah, right, and that's
it's asinine to think that because someone is gay, when they go into the bathroom, they're peeping.
Yeah. They've used the argument that men dressed as a woman, still sexually attracted to women, who have the physical prowess as men to overpower women, are going to dress as women to sneak into the bathroom and overpower a woman, or even worse, overpower their daughter. And as we learned from Consax last week, it's a very scary statistic. They're right to be concerned. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys are sexually assaulted by age 18, and those numbers are low.
Yeah.
The problem is over 95% of the kids that are assaulted by somebody they consider a friend or family member. When you're talking about a girl and frankly, those sexual predators, those potential sexual predators already have, assuming they're male, already have access to your sons in the bathroom. This doesn't do anything to stop the sexual predation. And the amendment doesn't do anything to the sexual predator laws that keeps it a crime, that makes it a crime in the first place. It's much more likely, based on the statistics, that the adult walking into the bathroom with the child is the abuser of the child, not the stranger walking in behind them.
Right.
It's a scary thought, and it's something we talked about last week. People don't like to own up to it. But over 95% of kids under 18 who are sexually assaulted are assaulted by a friend or family member, not by a stranger.
Yeah. And it's crazy. The whole thing is crazy. And this notion that we're all a bunch of sexual predators. And as you've pointed out many times, this notion that all men are sexual predators.
Yeah, I mean, just on the basis that men are, if given the chance, if this bill passes and they have the opportunity to dress up as a woman and sneak into the girls' room in order to take a peep, is sort of absurd. Yes, guys are horny. That doesn't mean guys are sexual predators.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. It's all crazy, and it's fear-mongering.
It is.
And honestly, I'm tired of it.
So those are the amendments that we're hoping will be defeated in the Senate, And if you haven't, we would encourage you, please, please, please contact your senator and ask them to support the bill and ask them not to support these amendments.
Right.
There's only about 5 days left in the session. You can go to ctequality.com and go to their action center, and they will have information on how to find out who your senator is and how to contact them via email or postal mail or telephone. It's very important that every senator in the state hears from a constituent.
Yeah. There's not that many of them. It's not that hard.
And honestly, even if you oppose it, you should still contact your senator and tell them.
Yeah. And you actually...
Not that I want them to, but that whole public participation is really important, and we're really moving, unfortunately, away from public participation in government and more towards talking heads on TV.
Yeah. But you can actually watch some of it on TV. If not on TV, you can go to ctn.com and watch live feeds of the Senate. You can see this stuff going on.
You can watch your government in action.
It's very cool. It really is, and certainly some of it's very long-winded. but it's cool, and yeah, by all means, we need to get this bill raised so it can get voted on and passed.
So we only have a couple minutes left.
Yeah.
And if we get into something else, I wanted to mention that today is June 1st. It is the beginning of Pride Month.
Yes. Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month, Rabbit Rabbit. So the White House has put out a statement in advance of Pride Month declaring LGBT rights to human rights, declaring LGBT rights
As human rights.
Yeah, but that's not actually what they typed here. Declaring LGBT rights to be human rights and recapping President Obama's efforts at advancing equality here and abroad. And I won't read the whole thing, but this first paragraph is nice. And then the rest of the paragraphs get into backslapping. The story of America's lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community is the story of our fathers and sons, our mothers and daughters, and our friends and neighbors who continue the task of making our country a more perfect union. It is a story about the struggle to realize the great American promise that all people can live with dignity and fairness under the law. Each June we commemorate the courageous individuals who have fought to achieve this promise for LGBT Americans, and we rededicate ourselves to the pursuit of equal rights for all, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. And I would like to point out that Pride Month really revolves around pride in yourself, pride in your identity, pride in who you are. You don't have to be gay, you don't have to be lesbian, you don't have to be trans, you don't have to have a sexual orientation or gender identity that's not heteronormative. Pride Month really is about being proud of who you are as an individual and letting everyone else be proud of who they are as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway. So yeah, there will be certainly, we'll have calendars for you, but there are going to be certainly a lot of Pride events and things this month. Yes. Although ours doesn't happen until September. But we'll keep you posted on that. And so anyway, we're about to run out of time. But by all means, please contact your senators and ask them to raise House Bill 6599.
6599,
an act concerning discrimination. It needs to get raised in the next 5 days. We've done so much work to try to get this thing passed, it would be a shame if it dies. But at least it needs to get raised so it can be discussed.
Yeah, and let's help try to spread that equality and dignity around the state.
Anyway, so I think we're out of time.
Sure.
And so we'll go away, and we will come back next week and see you again, and thank you so much for joining us.